Welcome to Vicarious Insights, the podcast where we dive into the world of disabilities, learning from experts, providers, participants, and their families. I'm your host, Jace, and today we have part two of our special guest, Lillian from the Parent Support Network. And Lillian's here to share a personal story and discuss the Nurtured Heart approach, which is a methodology that has had a significant impact on families. So, Lillian, welcome back.
Awesome to be back, Jace. It seems like yesterday we were chatting.
It was for me because I was still editing last night. So we were both talking from my perspective.
Awesome.
All right, so a little bit of a recap for just in case anybody is tuning in and this is their first one. A little bit of a recap. We talked a bit of your personal experience and what got you into it, but we were talking about the three stands. So there was absolutely no, absolutely yes, and absolutely clear.
Well done. You remembered. That's awesome. You have the greatness of having a great memory and paying attention. So, absolutely, yes, yes. So just a real quick recap. So I'm a mum of two adult sons. My youngest son was diagnosed with ADHD, ODD, and childhood depression as a little boy. He's now 31. And we have had quite an extraordinary journey with him, both a blessed journey and a challenging journey at the same time. And we, along the way, came to realise that there was a lot more to assisting our family to have happy and healthy relationships than what we initially started with, which was the physiology, the body, the food, the diet, the environment, etc. So long story short, but over time, we found a parenting coach who really helped us to get out of a very dark place with our son and with our family. And then we were very fortunate to find the Nurtured Heart approach. So even though I've been doing parenting work for 25 plus years, now I pretty much exclusively use the Nurtured Heart approach, which I first found out about in 2013. I became an accredited trainer in 2014 and an advanced trainer in 2021. So it's a beautiful approach. And the premise of the Nurtured Heart approach is to build inner wealth. And what I mean by inner wealth is a sense of, first of all, for ourselves as parents and adults, our sense of self, our self-esteem, self-worth, self-love, connection, and all that, our sense of who are we as a person. And then for us adults, to be in the place where we can help build that inner wealth for our children. We want to build a portfolio of greatness through the Nurtured Heart approach so that, as our children grow up, they have a real sense of who they are. I am a strong person. I am resilient. I am respectful. I am kind. I do have great self-control. I do make great choices. And we teach all of this through a three-stand process, as you said before: absolutely no, absolutely yes, and absolutely clear. And many parents unknowingly, and educators and carers, people who work with children, are parenting or communicating in an upside down way. So we're giving so much more attention, connection, and relationship to things going wrong, or the things that we don't want to grow, like disrespect, not listening, being uncooperative, fighting or squabbling. We tend to give more energy and relationship and connection when all the things are going wrong. So stand one, absolutely no, is all about not giving more of us when things are going wrong, not giving attention and connection and relationship to the things we don't want to grow, the disrespect, not cooperating, they're not getting things done, they're not listening. And that's when we usually come to life as parents. So it's quite a mind shift for us to go out of that space of giving more of us when things are going wrong, to then stepping into stand two, which is absolutely yes, which is looking for all of the opportunities to embrace the greatness and the qualities that we're seeing in our children, even the baby steps. So 30 seconds ago, 1 minute ago, that kid could have been disrespectful, squabbling, not listening, being rude. whatever they were doing that was inappropriate, but now they're taking steps towards doing something more appropriate. This is where we come in and give our energy, not to what we don't want to grow, but to what we do want to grow. I now see you're looking at me. You're no longer yelling. That's showing me that you're really respectful. I know you're upset, but you're using amazing self-control at the moment. You're not yelling. You're not swearing. You're ready to listen. I know you're upset, but it shows me so much about who you are as a person, and build that up.
Yep.
So in stand 2, we have, when people do my course and do coaching with me, we have a series of recognition techniques that we teach, which, it's like learning a new language. So we can not really, spend a lot of time on here, but we teach people how to switch the way they're currently communicating to a way that is in a more heart-centered way, and really focusing on the positive. And then stand 3 is absolute clarity, because just like in a sporting game or a video game or any sort of thing, you've got to have clarity. You've got to have rules. When you're playing tennis or basketball, if the ball goes out, it's out, right? In a video game, if you muck up, you get kicked out of the game. There are clear rules, and kids who play sport or play video games know what the clear rules are, and they know the consequence is whatever is going to happen when you muck up the rule.
Yeah.
So we need those clear rules in our parenting as well. But the difference is we teach something called the reset. So instead of giving a consequence as a punishment, go to your room, time out, taking away privileges, and that sort of thing, which traditionally don't work, we just teach something called a reset, which helps the children to self-control, to look at their own nervous system, to calm themselves down. Just like in a video game, when you get kicked out of the game, you can reset and get back in the game again. We teach the children that all they need to do is this simple reset, so they can get back into the game again, back into life, back into whatever's happening. Of course, if there's a serious, thing that's happened, there's going to be another consequence, but we're not going to deal with that in this moment. We're wanting to look for, in stand 3, we're wanting to look for the quickest opportunity to get back into stand 2 and to give an acknowledgement for steps moving forward. So that's the 3 stands again in a nutshell. And maybe I gave it a little bit of a different perspective than last time for people who have listened to the last one as well.
With me, I work with a lot of guys with intellectual neurodiverse personalities. So with a reset, is something like just having some sensory toys there for them to go, all right, this is going to help me to recalibrate. Okay.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Like, I find the best way to teach the reset is to model it. So we normally model the reset as just taking the time to take a deep breath, just close your eyes, do some deep breathing. Maybe you need to turn away from the situation. The kids might be upset with the parents, so they need to turn away from the parents and just reset themselves. Take those deep breaths. They might need to walk out of the room. They might have a sensory toy of some sort. Like my son used to have a punching bag that he would use to calm himself down. Whatever it takes, we can model different ways of doing it. Sometimes if it's a really major thing, a simple breathing might not be enough. You might need to actually remove yourself from the situation, or you as the parent might even have to remove one child away from another child if there's an escalation still. So it does depend on the circumstance, but usually kids learn to self-regulate really well. And when they know they're not going to be punished in a punitive sort of way, they love the reset, because it just allows them to to work on their own nervous system and to self-regulate themselves. And kids will actually start resetting without even being prompted. I'm not a fan of saying to the kids, you must reset, because once again, we can't make anybody do anything. But let's just say everybody's escalated and upset. You might say in front of the kids, hey, look, I need to calm myself down. I'm going to reset myself. Take a few deep breaths, and then I invite you to join me or to do the same. They may or they may not. We can't make them. But as soon as they have, we want to celebrate them for doing their reset and for coming back in a positive way. There's one family, when you talk about neurodiverse, a family that I was coaching with and that did my course a couple of years ago, who had two littlies who had been diagnosed with low functioning autism, both nonverbal. One had the little girl had more ability than the little boy, but they taught the reset through a hand motion. So it was something like this. So when the parent needed to reset, they would do, and they would do a hand movement. And then they taught the child, when the child was escalated, to do this hand movement. And the beautiful thing was the little girl who had some language, when mum and dad got cranky or needed a reset, she would say, "Mum and dad," and she would tell them that they needed a reset. So she was, yeah. So
and so the other one that was more non-verbal, they were able to take this on just from the modeling.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, the little girl who was more verbal grasped it more than the little boy did. But I think the biggest change for this family, and I'm thinking particularly of the dad, who was a big gruff, kind of almost bikey looking dad with the big beard, beautiful man, but he's the one who said, "Oh, this is some stupid tree hugging thing."
The tree hugging one, yeah.
Yeah, that. So because I think the kids pick up when the energy of the parents change. So even if they're non-verbal, if dads or mum are not angry or grumpy, or like, they sense that, they pick up on the energy. So when we can calm ourselves down, so if we're feeling escalated because of something the kids are doing or saying or whatever's happening, if we calm ourselves down, then the kids who are not as verbal or who may not be able to communicate the same as other kids can pick up on that energy. So just by us calming ourselves down, they're then like, okay, mum was angry, but now she's calming herself down. So it's okay. They're not feeling so worried about what's happening, or about mum or dad being upset or yelling, because no kid likes that sort of yelling or screaming, but the more sensitive kids are sensitive, and they really take that to heart when mum or dad get angry and use loud voices. So we have to be really mindful of our energy in and around our children, even if not directly. Like I always say to parents, Jace, if you have a challenge as two adults and you've got words that you want to say, please don't ever say them around children, because they will pick up on that energy. Even if they don't understand the context of the conversation, they will pick up on that energy, and then they'll feel bad. Mum and dad aren't getting on. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe it's because of something I did. They take a lot of that on. So parents, we have to be really mindful. If you've got to have an angry conversation, go and lock yourself in the car. Go and lock yourself out in the backyard somewhere where the kids won't hear you, or wait until the kids are totally out of earshot, because the energy can be picked up in the next room. Kids are so good at picking up energy, especially those really sensitive kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so for myself, and hopefully for anyone listening. So I do a lot of group stuff. So we're going to have different personalities. Most of the guys that I'm with have got, I'm going to say, similar disabilities. So with them now, if one of the guys is having a moment, and they look, most of the guys that do train with me, I feel they've been lucky enough to have some psych support and things like that, OT, those sorts of things that they're going through, and then that are really helping them. And I believe they seem to know, or maybe they're masking, but they know when they do need a bit of a reset. And I allow that. I'm like, hey, look, mate, if you want to sit down on the grass, like, are you sitting down on the grass because you're being lazy, or do you need to sit down on the grass? And they're like, I need to do this.
That is a reset. That's what they're doing. Probably they're resetting themselves because they're feeling escalated, and they're just taking that time out. So we do need to allow them to take that time out. And that's why sometimes it's challenging in classrooms, because it's so structured and you must sit down and you must, face the board and you must listen. Sometimes kids need to get up and move around, or they need to just take some space, or, we need to allow them that space. Sorry, but I did interrupt you. You were telling me about your group.
No, that's right. No, and I was leading into the question anyway. But so with that now, if we're looking at the absolutely no, if there is something that is maybe a little bit more than them getting the reset, and I'm needing to lead them toward a reset rather than allowing that escalation, I do like to let things go how they need to go. But if it's me with a group of the guys, I do need to keep with everybody. So it's a pack situation, which for most of these guys, that is also something that they do need to learn. Like, being around everybody is everybody matters. With that, sometimes it's like, mate, and I'm like, look, if you need to sit down, then you can go over here. I was just thinking before, when you're saying that, having a little sensory box. I've got bags of toys with me all the time anyway. Quite often I'll just grab whatever they fix their fancy. But having a specific sensory box going, okay, you can use that to go reset. What would your advice be to be in that moment of a potential escalation, mid-escalation, or whatever?
Great question. And there's two ways you can approach it. So firstly, and you've got to be fast, right? Because you don't have time for things to escalate. I can see that you're feeling upset, but I want to acknowledge you for feeling your feelings. You're letting us know how you're feeling. I mean, even if they're having a tantrum, they're expressing themselves. So you can actually acknowledge them for expressing themselves. Or if you can sense that things are going to get more escalated, but they haven't, I can see you're feeling a bit, whatever word you want to use, escalated, upset, angry. But here you are, and you're kind of hijacking them a little bit. Here you are using such great self-control. Look at you in this moment. You could be stomping around, you could be throwing things, you could be hurting somebody, but you're not. You're upset, but you're really handling your feelings really well. So you want to jump on that as quick as you can before it escalates, because if you can grab it before it escalates too much, and I know that's difficult sometimes when you're in a group, you can't kind of, concentrate on just one person. But if you can get it as early as you can and acknowledge them for something, acknowledge them for, like, even if they're really having a full-on hissy fit, but you could be punching me, but you're not. And you know what? You're angry, you're upset, you could be punching me, you could be hurting me, but you're using amazing self-control in this moment. So even though they could be swearing at you or whatever they're doing, they could be doing something worse. And by highlighting it, it's not giving them the idea, because some people then say, isn't that giving them the idea? You were thinking that, right?
But I was like,
because we're wanting to tell them that we see their self-control. We see their compassion. You could have, when Joe kicked you, you could have kicked him back, but you didn't. You know what that shows me about you is you're such a kind and compassionate person.
yeah.
And the other thing is, say, for example, there's an escalation and the offender hurts or offends another person. You can acknowledge the person who's not the offender, but the person who's been violated or spoken to rudely or hurt, about how they're handling the situation. That must have been really tough when Jimmy, called you that name, or when he shoved you. But look at how you're handling yourself. You are handling your feelings so well. You could have got really angry at him and you didn't. Wow, mate, that is amazing self-control you have. Now, of course, you've got to say it in your own blokey way, like bloke to bloke, man to man. Like a woman would say it. Yeah, we would say it in a different way, but you'd go, mate, that's amazing self-control. I'm so proud of you. It could be just that, sometimes, and you've got, like, sometimes the flowery stuff doesn't sit well with the guys, especially once they're sort of teenagers and beyond. But like, mate, that is flipping amazing self-control. You could have really got angry then when he did that, and you didn't. Oh my gosh, how did you even do that? How did you manage to contain yourself? And then he's going to be like, really proud of himself, because in actual fact, he could have lashed out, He could have punched the person. He could have done something, but they chose not to. So acknowledging that person, and then that's also going to be an example to the rest of the group. So if you're saying that in a group situation, you're not only helping to build that person's inner wealth, but you're showing the rest of the group what it means to have great self-control, to be compassionate, to be thoughtful, to be a good friend. So when you're giving these acknowledgements to a group, you're giving that example to the whole group, even though you're focusing on one person. But just make sure your language is relevant, to bloke. Like it's different than a mum speaking to a little 5-year-old girl, for example. So you're going to use a different sort of language. But, hey, mate, gosh, I'm proud of you for that. You really could have, but you didn't. Oh, gosh, how do you have such great self-control? Like even say it in that way. I don't know how you did it. Gosh, that's amazing. And how could they not but feel good then? Do you know what I mean? Like, no matter how upset they're feeling in that moment or angry with the other person who might have said something nasty or done something to them, they've got to be feeling good because their favorite toy, their adult of influence, is acknowledging them for handling that situation so well. And that's going to be an example to the whole group.
Yeah.
It's powerful, really powerful. But you've got to kind of almost like I help the clients that I work with, increase their vocabulary of recognitions, to learn how, because sometimes we have something called an active recognition. It's just acknowledging what they do. Hey, mate, I just noticed you picked up the footballs and put them away. Thanks heaps. Like just acknowledging them for things.
That one's great.
Yeah.
I've done that recently,
Yeah.
and now they're putting the boxing stuff away, and I'm like, thank you. You guys are amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I leave stuff behind.
Sometimes it's just the simple things,
Yeah.
and acknowledge them, for being, that shows me, you're such a great part of the team, and I really appreciate and respect you because, gosh, I forget the balls half the time, but here you are, you've remembered, you've put them back in the box. That's amazing, so and then the other kid who didn't pick them up this time heard your recognition. They're like, I want a piece of that action. So next time I'm going to beat him to pick up the balls and I'm going to pick them up and put them back in the bag or the box or whatever.
I'm
So
lucky with the guys I've got. I think a lot of them are tuned that way. So it's like you said, you've got the two types. You've got the ones that are going for the relationship and the ones that are going for the approval. They get it. They're like, I like him. You like you saying nice things to him. I'm going to do that too. And I see them, and I use it to my advantage or for their advantage, which is to my advantage. And actually stepping into that. So this is where I'm going to brag. Yeah, I'm sort of excited. They're not completely finished yet, but you were talking about some little love heart things, and you said you're probably not going to do little love heart things, Jason. You were right. So I've got the certificates that the boys are going to get. Now I'm only going to give one out each session. So each session there's going to be one. And so we've got, it's probably going to be backwards there, but we've got perseverance.
Oh, wow.
And
you're amazing.
We've got,
you'll have to share those with me.
Respect, caring for others, and leadership. Now,
did you make those up?
Yes. Now you just said good friend, and when you said that before, I'm thinking I might change caring for others to being a good friend, or I might add good friend into it.
Caring for others is good. I like that.
But what I've got in there is name, how you earned this, and what it says about you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, and that's directly from what you were talking about last week. I loved it. Like I don't know how much of my stuff my speaking I actually cut out. It was probably a fair bit, but I got quite excited when you're talking about that.
That's awesome.
Because what I can see from that, what I do with these guys, it's in a bubble. So what happens outside of when they're with me, I can see their growth. The parents don't tell me they see the growth, but I can see their growth. I can see the interactions with others, and they're proud of stuff in our group. What exists out of our group? Like, I don't know. Do they know? Whereas with this, they can go home and be like, Mum, look what I got.
Absolutely. And the best thing you can do is brag to the parents in front of the kid.
Yep.
If you get to see the parents. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that same thing that you were saying. They hear the negative from the parent,
Yeah.
that's what we always do. We always share the negative. The negative's always louder. We get a pat on the back for a good thing, and we get yelled at for a bad thing, and that's the bigger repercussion.
They look amazing. I love them. Well
Thank you.
done.
Yeah, I was quite. The idea was playing around in my head, and yeah, I got them down into paper. I was
So
actually.
what greatness does that show about you? You tell me.
I I think it definitely means that I'm in the improver category.
So is that
Like,
like,
look what I did, Miss Lillian.
I know, but like we have, like that shows so much creativity, initiative, like, thoughtfulness, like, we have to, I think as adults, sometimes we're like, well, we can't pat ourselves on the back, but yes, we can. We have to build our own, like the fact that you went to that trouble to do that for the guys that you work with shows a lot about you, right? That you don't have to do that. You can just go in there and do the bare minimum and get paid, but you are actually wanting to make a difference for these young men. So that shows a heck of a lot about you. And those young people are lucky to have you, because look at what you've done. You've taken something you've learned, and not only have you, made little hearts, like I've actually got tears in my eyes, like my eyes. Seriously.
She's
You've,
lucky I didn't show you one with the love heart. That would have been all
I
over.
know, right? But, to that is very creative. You've taken initiative, like, but you've done it really from a place of, okay, I've learned something that I can do to make a difference for these kids.
Yeah.
And you've taken action on it. You've spent time, I'm sure that took a lot of time to do all of those. And, that's outside of, some people's pay. Like you've gone above and beyond because you really do want to make a difference for these kids. And they will notice that. And you are going to be the person who in 5 or 10 years' time and beyond says, I remember my, whatever you get called, Jason, my sports coach or whatever you're called. I remember when he gave me this certificate and he told me I had the great, and they tend to keep those things. Remember to date them as well.
Right.
Put the date on, because in 12 months, 2 years' time, they'll be able to look back and go, okay, in June 2024, I got that. So you just handwrite the date. You don't need to print it. Yeah.
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 I think it's those I find these guys, I don't have a choice. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm like they make me give them advice about something, and that makes me look internally, and then I'm like, holy crap, I need to take that advice.
What age are they again? Because they're older kids, aren't they?
I've got a mix. The youngest guy that I train is 10.
Yeah.
I do one-on-one with him. He's to a registered provider, and they can only do the one-on-one stuff the way the funding works. One of the other guys is 12. He's in the group. He's the youngest in our group.
Okay.
And then we go up to about 25.
So they're young men predominantly, aren't they? Yeah.
Only young men. And I seem to attract guys with autism or other intellectual disabilities.
Nice.
Part of what I'm working through the other company as well is to be able to get some more experience helping guys with other physical disabilities, so I can help people. But they're one of the things with one of the young fellas there was, and it's that terminology, like the words we were talking about last week, was he was telling me, saying, and I'm like, man, look, I've got to tell. Why do you think I'm saying all of this to you? And he came up with a couple of ideas, like, because it's something I should do, and it's because I shouldn't be naughty, or because I should be good, or something like that. And I'm like, mate, it's because you matter. And the look that he gave me, oh my God. Yeah, I wasn't a blokey bloke in that minute. I tell you what, like he
That's
was
being very
like,
masculine.
what?
That's being beautiful. Like, being masculine doesn't mean we can't say beautiful things like that. Like that, to me, that is being masculine. That is showing great masculine energy, because, and you see the difference that makes for these people. I really have a challenge with, men like, oh, I can't, I'm a bloke and he's a kid and he's a boy. Like, we can't, speak in this way. Like, it's a real old fashioned, like, I remember, we don't hug we don't hug our boys once they turn a certain age. I'm like, bugger that for a joke. Like my husband still hugs my boys and they're in their 30s, like it's just, I think, that sort of old fashioned sort of way of thinking, but no, that's amazing. And I bet you he did light up. Yeah.
He did. It was just, it's like I'd had the Holy Grail in front of him, like the expression on his face. I was like, what? Like he didn't realize that? Like he didn't know he mattered? Like he knows he mattered. He's an awesome family. Kid going through bullying and all of that crap.
When you tell them, you actually tell them the words. Yeah.
And it's funny, little things like that. I noticed them afterwards. They come in and they try a little bit harder. And the times that they would have given up, they're like, I'm going to do it. So and that's the excitement of this stuff. It's
amazing. I'm so happy about that.
We spoke last week about, or you had a word for it. It was about the dance, the nurtured heart dance, nurtured heart approach dance. So would you be able to elaborate on some practical ways some parents can implement these, or the stands or the dance in their daily interactions?
Okay, great question. First of all, like any dance, I'm not a dancer, but if somebody presented a complicated dance with steps, and I would look at that and go, there's no way I can duplicate that dance. But if somebody taught that to me step by step, okay, this week we're going to learn a couple of simple hand movements and practice them all week. And then next week we're going to learn a couple of foot movements. And then the third week we're going to incorporate these couple of hand movements with these foot movements. We're going to practice that. And then when we get that bit, we're going to do the next part of the dance. So it's a little bit similar with the nurtured heart. You have to learn the components separately somewhat. And then just like in the movements for the dance, and then once you've learned the movements, i.e. the stands, the 3 stands, then you can incorporate them into one dance. And when you are confident with this dance, you don't need to be in your head. You're more in your heart. You don't have to be going, stand 1, don't give attention to the negative. Stand 2, oh, I've got to be positive. Oh, stand 3, what are the rules and consequences? Reset. Like you just are in the dance. So in any given moment, you might go, okay, there's an opportunity for acknowledgement. I'm in stand 2. Or then there might be a challenge. Okay, something's happening there. I'm in stand 1. I'm not going to give that attention, connection, relationship. Or I might need to go into a reset. So the stands don't go in order necessarily, but we can't learn. People want to often get to stand 3. What are the rules? What are the consequences? What are the punishments? Like, how does that work? But just like if you are building a 3-story house, you can't put the 3rd story in until the foundations and the 1st and 2nd story are in. So we have to learn how to change our energy. We have to learn, stand 2 is probably the most stuff to learn, like to learn all of the ways of saying the recognitions, the different techniques, and then it takes a mindset change to go out of the traditional way of communicating, not just parenting, but just communicating in general and relationshiping, so that when you are confident, and this can take 6 or 12 months. I've got some of my parents who have been in my course coming back regularly for over 2 years because they're still learning the dance. They're still trying to refine the steps. And sometimes they know the steps and then they forget them or they muck them up. And they're like, oh, shivers, I forgot that step, or I mucked that step up, which we can do in a dance as well. So the more we practice the steps, the more fluent they become. And then the more this way of communicating just becomes natural. It's like we now have learnt another language called nurtured heart. It's like you're learning German and you can speak German. Now you can speak nurtured heart. And are you going to be perfect at it? No. Are you going to muck it up? Yes. Are you going to fall back into that bad land of negativity sometimes? Yes. Of course, we're humans. That happens. But the more we learn it, the more good we feel about it, and the more we see the results and the beautiful blessings that come from using it with kids particularly, the more we're going to have in our heart. I really need to work on this. I want to really communicate this way with everybody I connect with, whether it's your romantic partner, a friend, a work colleague, the kid you work with, a stranger down the street, a shop assistant, somebody in a restaurant. Finding opportunities to acknowledge greatness in people is such a beautiful feeling. And I tell you what, it gives more to us than it does. Like, it's good for the person you give it to, but you actually feel so good. You go out with a spring in your step when you see that person smile, or when they go, wow, nobody's ever said that to me before. And they're going away feeling good, and you're going away feeling good as well. So it's a definite win-win situation. But yeah, the dance takes practice. It takes practice.
Now that's probably somewhere that somebody that's listening in might be able to test that out. They're not like, hey, this sounds interesting. Do I want to do it on the people that I don't know? But if you go into a shop and you come out and go, hang on, they've given me good service, going back in and saying, hey, can I speak to the manager? Manager comes up and you're like, hey, your little Sarah there was amazing. That's the best service I've had in years. Thank you so much. And then you can go away and realize directly how good you feel about it, and can see the reaction of little Sarah and the manager.
We do that all the time. Like, we in restaurants particularly, I tip as well. I love to tip financially, like it's just $5 or something, even when I go in and get my nails done. So the other day I went in, I go in there regularly. They know me. I thought it closed at 5 on a Sunday, but it was closing at 4. I really wanted my nails done because I had that event that I had to go to on Monday, and they were looking crappy. And I said, oh, could you really please try and fit me in? And they're like, oh, we got to close soon. But one of the girls said, I'll do it, and they all wanted to get out of the door by 4 o'clock. So she rushed, but she got them done where they were really already in closed down mode. Yeah. So I normally tip them $5 in there every time. I always do. I just love to tip, but I gave her $10, and just not because I had to, but I thanked her. I said, thank you so much, for doing that, because I know you were already in, going home mode, and you were ready to start packing up, but you knew I wanted these done under different circumstances. I could have come back the next day, but I really wanted them done. I mucked up my times, etc. And she just had a smile on her face. And I mean, the $10 was nice, but also the recognition was nice too,
We all, yeah. But definitely both got a value, and one lasts a little bit longer, doesn't it? Yeah. How do you incorporate the nurtured heart approach into your teaching?
I get you. That's probably exclusively what I teach now. So I've been doing courses for 25 plus years. I've only been doing Nurtured Heart for 11 years now. I used to actually do a course, and it's still a great book. So this book, The Best Parent I Can Be, which is based on parenting and the law of attraction, which is kind of has some similar philosophies to Nurtured Heart, because it's all about focusing on what you want and using positive language. But I actually pretty much exclusively use the Nurtured Heart now, because it's proven to me time and time again that it works. And especially for the men, because men need something a little more systematic, than women sometimes. Like my husband said, just tell me the steps. What do I need to do? What do I need to say? What am I not meant to do? So because the Nurtured Heart approach has the 3 clear stands, and within those stands, we have certain things that we teach to be able to help you learn them. So I pretty much don't do any of my other courses now. I only really do the Nurtured Heart. But of course, I bring in 38 years of parenting experience and 25 plus years of teaching parenting into that, because I think my personal experience, of course, is huge, because I am that parent with that challenging child. So when somebody comes in and they're really struggling, and other people might not understand how they're really feeling, how stressful it is, how hard it is, I know it, right? I haven't met too many people who have got kids who are more challenging than our son was. So when people hear our story, they're like, okay, we haven't quite got it that challenging, or I can really relate to you. So both my personal experience and loving the Nurtured Heart approach, it makes it very easy to teach, because I know it works. I have enough people who use it, who, tell me it works. And, it is just a beautiful way of communicating and relationship. So, yeah, I would say 99% of what I teach now is based around the nurtured heart approach.
And you'd mentioned there last week that you have like an open group. So once you've joined in, you've got the lifelong access, was it?
Yeah.
Speaking outside of school. So those, once you've signed up for it and you've gone through the teachings, you're going to always have that support there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yourself and other people in the group.
I've identified that's really necessary, because doing this sort of work now for decades and the nurtured heart for over 10 years, I've come to realize that, yes, you can pick up the book and read the book and get something from it. And yes, you can do a short course and learn some stuff, even just learning from listening to this podcast. Look at you, you've already gone and implemented stuff. But if you really want to learn it and implement it and tweak it and get it, precise and really get the results, it takes ongoing participation and practice. So the way my courses are designed now, I call them a rolling course, and people basically have lifetime access. So all of the content, so there's like a course portal that you get access to that's got probably 50 or 60 recordings in there now. And you go through the core ones first, which are the basic 12 sessions of information, so the learning. And then there's a whole bunch of all the Q&A and discussion calls, which we can talk about so many things that are going to be relevant to lots of families. But one of the most important components is that you have the opportunity to jump on live every fortnight to discuss, to chat with other parents, to brainstorm together. And that's where you get a lot of support. And then some parents also want that one-on-one. So we can do one-on-one sessions. With my course, you do get 2 one-on-one sessions as a part of the course. So, so some people like to do more one-on-ones. They're a little bit more private. Other people love the group sessions, but it's there for everybody.
Yeah. Now, you've brushed on it. And I was thinking there, I'm like, how did I not ask her about this? Your books, you've got 6, 7?
6.
6. So 6, a lot. So you had 6 books. What books have you written? What would you say the titles are? And
I don't like. It's funny because I don't. The main one I talk about is my 3rd book, but I've got Hidden Dangers, which was my 1st book. So that's all about the additives in food, the toxic, ingredients in personal care products. It talks about a lot of statistics in here about ADHD and medications and stuff like that. This is my most researched book. So this actually has a lot of research in it. And then my 2nd book, so that was written in 2003, so a fair while ago.
And you've
2005, 2005, The Best Me I Can Be. So this is a personal development book, a workbook for kids.
I was going to say, it's a fun-looking cover.
Yeah, so it goes through from A to Z, from like A is for attitude, B is believe in yourself, C is for challenges, D is for dream, E is for effort, F is for food. We've even got, kindness, love, muscles, like all sorts of things in there. So that's a workbook for children to work with independently if they're a bit older or with an adult. My 3rd book is my favorite, which is the one you can download for free off my website, which is
for free, people.
Free. This is free. You can download for free from my website. The Revolting Child, A Blessing in Disguise. So this is our whole journey, our whole story from my pregnancy right through until my son was just a tad short of 16. So it talks about the big revolt when he was a teenager and our meeting our coach, but it talks about all of the early stuff as well when he was a toddler. This is still my favorite because it's my whole story. So that's number 3. Number 4, if you want kids to cooperate, just ask. So that's 36 parenting tips and also some tips in there from naturopath Nathan. Still really, really relevant. Like there's still really positive stuff, but none of these are based on the nurtured heart approach, but they're still complementary. So that's number 4. Number 5 is The Best Parent I Can Be. So this is my workbook for parents. So I've got the best me I can be for kids and the best parent I can be for parents. And once again, this is in a workbook kind of situation. I don't have any hard copies of either of these two left now. I'm not going to print anymore because I've got hard copies of the others, but they are all available online as a digital copy.
Yeah.
And then my last book came out of a seminar tour that I did, where I had, the best teacher, the best parent I could be. I had the best me I can be for kids. And then the parents said, oh, we would love one more specific for teachers. So you know how I said I wrote that one in 6 weeks? Well, I had a tour. I did a tour where I was actually teaching in a school in Horsham in Victoria. And the teacher said, oh, we would love a book for teachers. We would love a book for teachers. And I had another speaking tour book 6 weeks later. So in that 6 weeks from that tour to the next tour, I wrote this and got it printed and published and delivered directly to the next town I was going to. So I'm a fast writer.
Yeah, wow. With those ones, the best parent I can be, the best teacher I could be. But so in looking in the disability world, support workers, there's that caring mentality. There's the people, whoever you're looking for, age brackets probably don't really matter so much. But quite often people are going to be in that mentor sort of role, not a parent role, but maybe doing things along those lines. How relevant do you think those books would be for people in this space?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But still, I'm going to promote someone else's books above my own because I still love the Nurtured Heart book that I use with my course. That I usually have here, but I was actually showing somebody this morning, so they're behind me in the bookcase. But How to Handle the Intense Child is the workbook that actually goes with my course. And if you join my course, you get that book anyway. But look, I love my books. I think they're all amazing and there's a lot of great information in them. And I'm an advocate for, if you've got a topic that you're interested in, to read a variety of stuff, to look at a variety of stuff. Yep. But definitely I use these more as giveaways these days. It's not about selling them. It's just about helping people. But the Nurtured Heart book is definitely the one that complements what I now teach.
Okay. And the other one there, the kids workbook, the Me I Can Be.
Yeah.
One, what age group would you say that would be?
Good question. Probably most suitable to primary school age.
Okay.
So 5 to 12, but I have had kids 14, 15 love it.
Yep.
And I have had adults love it. It's kind of a springboard for discussion. So what happened was my mum passed away in May of 2005, and I was so distraught that this was my healing. So I actually wrote this book just after my mum passed away. So yeah, she channeled it for me somehow. But it's kind of a springboard, and you don't have to read this in order. So, like if you want to talk about attitude, you go to that chapter. If you want to talk about, what are your dreams and goals, you go to that chapter. If you want to talk about helping others, you go to H is for helping. So it's kind of a bit of a springboard for parents or teachers or carers to have discussions with kids. A lot of schools have used these. I've sold many of them to schools. So yeah, but probably the most ideal range would probably be about 8 to 14, but they can be used younger. And
it's a workbook, like they're actually
printed and writing. Yeah, you actually write in it. Some people don't want to write in them, but the whole idea is, for example, there's an activity page, so you're meant to write in them. But if you don't want to write in them, you can just write in another book or another, on a piece of paper. But I've got quite a few of these. So if people want to buy them, I actually sell them off even for $5 each or something, even though they cost me more than that to print.
Great. Yeah. Okay, cool. But I'm actually thinking that might be pretty cool to have I've got a group of guys that come for a crafting night. Sometimes they're bored with the crafting or something else to do. And it's like, we'll have a look at a bit of this. I've got plenty of stuff to do. I've got like toy boxes of Century Toys.
Yeah. Nice.
Anyway, I digress. That's those are really cool. Oh, we mentioned off camera, but we haven't actually mentioned on camera that your parent support network and the teachings that you do are available through NDIS, and you can put them through capacity building.
Correct? Yeah,
Yep.
I have many people who have joined my course through their NDIS funding. Yep.
Yep. Okay. And I can see a lot of benefit for a lot of people, especially in our realm. Uh,
Mm.
the empowerment, I think, is really really important, and it's pretty much a lot of what this is all about. Uh,
Absolutely.
Now, what so getting on to something specific about disability off to the side, what changes or improvements would you like to see in the way society supports and understands individuals with disabilities?
Wow. That's a really good question. I think, just that I see everybody as an individual. You know, I'm not a real fan of labels, and I understand they're needed for diagnosis and for getting help. But I see you and I, every person is different. We respond to things differently. We have different ways of doing things. Our brains all work differently. Some of us are more academic, some of us are more creative, some of us are more heart-driven, some of us are more results-driven or approval-driven. We're all different. So I would just love to see, and I know this is utopia, but to just have total acceptance, for each other. And I think teaching other children tolerance of kids who are different, because what is normal anyway? Like when we say that kid's normal and that kid's not, what is a normal kid? Like, we are all different and individual. But I guess, somebody who really stands out as being different, I think bullying's a big issue. And I think
Ask you something about that.
teaching. So for us as adults to set the example to our kids and to model being kind to everybody, and to looking for everybody's strengths and their greatness and their qualities, rather than focusing on the things that make them different, that might be teasable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would love to see under that umbrella just a world where we can all help and support each other for our strengths, for our differences. But I think it has to start with us parents mentoring and modeling for our children to be fine, upstanding citizens who treat people respectfully, i.e. the kid in the playground who might be getting teased by somebody else. Are you going to stand up for that kid, or are you going to, just stand in the background and go, well, I don't want to be bullied, so I'm, or teaching, the kids who are the potential bullies, that that's not how a heart-connected, fine, human being treats another person. Like, I think just that I would just love to see, that being taught, and and that we really do take a stand on bullying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do get the labels. I've had this discussion with many people. Like, I don't call somebody like, oh, they're an ADHD or they're autistic. Like, they have been diagnosed. They have certain qualities that present themselves as that, but that's not who they are. That's not who they are as a person. So I would love people to be just seen as who they are, and those who need help get their help. So if you need help academically, if you need help with your social skills, if you need help with whatever, just to be able to assist and help people for whatever they need, regardless of whatever their title or their diagnosis is. But unfortunately, I know that's never going to happen, because we need diagnosis to be able to give them that support. But yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of. I think it's because I think kids take that on as something wrong with them.
Yeah.
That I am disabled. I do have a disability, where I don't see them as a disability. I see them as just having a different way of coping with things, a different way of using their brain,
Yeah.
a different way of processing things. some people who have been diagnosed with various things, they are brilliant people, absolutely brilliant, but they might be a bit quirky. They might not be great with their social skills, so let's help them with the things they need help with and embrace the greatness that they have with the things, that show that. And let's just help each other to feel good about each other, especially kids, because kids can be damn mean. Like, they really can be mean to each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that comes from home, because not always, but I really believe if parents parent their kids to have compassion and to be kind, then they're less likely to be a bully. Usually the bully is a kid or a person who does not feel good about themselves. Therefore, they bully or tease somebody else to feel that validation for themselves.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it cannot be a bit of a vicious cycle, can't it? Circle that we need to somehow kind of get in and stop.
So getting in and stopping, is there anything with what you guys do that maybe the kid, the parent, or the teacher, some teachings for them or some tips for them that may be a terminology, a way to react, a way to interact?
I think just, teaching kids, because it starts with kids, doesn't it? To be compassionate, to see the good in people, even if they're different.
Yep.
And even if they're not your kind of person that, you might not want to hang out with, they're not your kind of person, but to still be kind and compassionate to them, to still say nice things to them or stick up for them if another kid's not being kind to them. That's the kid I would be proud of if they were my kid. Sticking up for somebody or just being compassionate and kind to somebody. You can, like that kid who might get teased by 9 out of 10 people at school, and you're that 10th kid who says something nice to them or sticks up for them or is compassionate or understanding or thoughtful, you are going to make a huge difference to that kid's life. But it starts with us adults, because we can model bad behavior. I've seen some very bad behavior from people who should know better and saying things to their kids and in front of their kids. So adults, it starts with us, and the examples and the modeling that we do. And if we show compassion to others, like, that's how we teach our kids to be compassionate, to be kind. When we're compassionate and kind, we model it and they see us and they see that's how we behave. Then they're going to see that's, that they're going to model that and they're going to mirror that.
Yeah.
It's a big thing to solve. I get that, but one step at a time.
I am looking for an expert on bullying to speak to, because it's a big topic. It's a really big
topic. A huge topic. Yeah.
And especially in this industry, there's the kids, they don't go back to school because of it. They lose out on so many things because
absolutely, kids are refusing to go to school and they don't always want to tell their parents because they're being bullied, because they feel ashamed, they feel inadequate, and maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing it. Which is why also open relationships, having open communication with your kids is good, so that they feel that they can come and tell you. And then also parents, it's how do we respond to that? How do we help that kid? It's not about, I'm going to beat that kid up time. I'm going to go and knock that kid, whatever. That's not the solution.
you feel like it though.
Yeah. And often if you're a good parent of a kid who's been mean to another kid, I mean, you feel bad about that. And obviously, hopefully you would give a lesson, a compassionate lesson to your bully kid to have them understand, how impacting that is. I used to, when I was a teacher, I don't know if you've heard of the chicken soup books. Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Yes.
Oh, I've got I had nearly all of them, but I've been loaning them to people. But the Chicken Soup for the Soul. So when I was teaching, I remember in one class, there was a girl who was from a different religion, and she had to dress in a certain way according to her religion, which was not trendy according to the other, these were grade 5 and 6 kids, so 11, 12-year-old girls who can be very judgmental. And they were mean to this girl, and she kept having so many days off school, and I was reading between the lines, it's because they were being mean to her. So
She
instead
misses
of,
out on her education because
instead of giving a lecture to them, I actually went through my Chicken Soup for the Soul books and found some stories that had them thinking about the impact of that bullying on people. And I read them a couple of stories, and then that led to some discussions, because they were good kids. They weren't bad kids. They were just like, when somebody's just a bit different. Anyway, that allowed me, and so obviously I was this kind of teacher way before I knew anything about nurtured heart approach, but that allowed me to have some conversations with those girls. There was a particular little clique of girls who who were teasing. And then when that girl came back, before she came back, we discussed some strategies about how to make her feel better and inclusive. And when those girls changed their attitude towards that girl just lit up. But you know what? It did as much for the girl who was being teased as it did for the girls who were the teasers, because they actually felt better themselves, because I don't think they were feeling good about the way they were treating her, but it's almost like they were in this little clique. So if they wanted to be in the clique, she's teasing, so I need to tease. So it was kind of like a group mentality. But I think I did some great work there, because they actually ended up making her feel inclusive. And we had some classroom discussions, and, it led to a lot of really good conversations, because sometimes kids don't realize the impact of communicating that way to other kids. They're not necessarily a real bully at heart. They're just, yeah.
I think their brains aren't involved enough to understand the full concept of their actions. Doesn't make their actions right, and their actions do have repercussions, and sometimes lifetime for some of these kids.
But unfortunately, there are a lot of big bullies, adult bullies, and that's modeled. If you're a parent who's a bully to a child, or even to another, like that, what example is that to your children? And it could even be, road rage and stuff like that, or just being mean, like a passing mean comment. Oh, look at that lady, look how fat she is, or something, like something mean. What example is that to your children? It's not a good example at all. Anyway, we could talk more about that forever, couldn't we?
Yes, yeah, no, it's definitely something I'm delving into, but we'll give you some rapid fire questions here. Actually, one of the things I noticed while I was doing the editing is your use of a word. So you often say, rather than relationship, relationshiping. So I'm thinking that relationship is something that it is.
It's my made up word.
Or relationshiping is something that you do.
It's a verb. Yeah, I've made it into a verb. Yeah.
No, I was thinking, I'd noticed it when we were talking, but there was other things going on. But when you're editing, you go over the same thing a few times, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't think, does that word exist? But
I don't think it does. I think I made it up because somebody else said relationshiping. It's even in my blurb. It's even in my bio, because it's a verb. It's a doing word. We're relationshiping.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a real word, but if it's not, I've made it up.
Two people are talking about it now. It exists. There you go. Webster's, come on. Looking back on your journey, what are you the most proud of?
That my husband and I stepped up into the parents that we really needed to be, that we made the effort, we got the help, we identified that we needed the help, and that it wasn't just about our son, but that it was about us, and that we needed to change us.
Yeah, cool. And I'm holding myself back from deep diving into that answer. Great answer. If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
That I'm good enough. I'm enough.
Ooh. And what message would you like to leave our listeners with today?
If you are a caregiver of children, a parent, an educator, a caregiver of any sort, remember how powerful your words are. So your words can be used to build somebody up, or to bring them down. So before you open your mouth, if you remember the analogy from our last call with the watering can, what are you going to water? Are you going to water what you want to grow, or are you about to water something you don't want to grow? Think before you speak. Your words are powerful. And let's get our language right side up instead of upside down, which it is for a lot of us currently.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, Lillian, thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights with us. And I will put some links to your stuff. You've actually shared with me a link to a page, and the page has a heap of different things. And I think that also has a link on it to get your free book.
Correct.
And that's downloadable. So I will share that. That should be available on both the podcast and the YouTube. And thank you again. Thank you to our listeners for tuning into this episode of Vicarious Insights. And remember to subscribe for more insightful discussions. Stay healthy, stay motivated, and keep learning. Until next time.
Thank you, Jace. Thank you.